Chad Gable admitted this, and in this video, I'm going to tell you exactly what he had to admit, because I don't know about you, but Chad Gable's career as of the last few months, it hasn't gone according to what I thought it should have been. And I think a lot of people would share that sentiment, because Chad Gable, he had a ton of momentum on his side earlier this year, and things have started to go downhill just a little bit for Chad Gable. Now, I understand that he's in a huge storyline right now with the Wyatt Six, and it's not necessarily because of the great booking in which WWE is doing. It's kind of that spooky-esque kind of thing, right? It has an element to it. Now, the Wyatt Six, it had been built up for so long, and it was executed great when they first debuted, but I feel like they've started to lose a little bit momentum. Now, isn't it ironic that they've started to lose momentum at the same time that Chad Gable has started to lose momentum? Now, I understand that everyone and their dog thought that it was going to be Chad Gable to dethrone Sami Zayn as the Intercontinental Champion, and they didn't do it. Chad Gable has fallen into this category where he was booked for so long. So he started out, obviously, with Alpha Academy, him and Jason Jordan, absolute fire tag team in NXT and on the main roster. Now, the only problem is when they split up, WWE, they did not know what to do with Chad Gable, right? They put him with Shelton Benjamin, and then they put him in like the Shorty G gimmick and just made him just like a joke, right? To the point where fans were like, what does this guy have to do? He has to leave WWE, right? He has to leave WWE to prove all of them wrong, to prove the company that they're doing it wrong. And he finally started getting a push under Triple H, him turning heel, and his Sami Zayn feud put him on the map to the point where I thought he should have beat Sami Zayn earlier this year for the IC title. Now, obviously, at WWE, they didn't feel like that. They didn't think that Chad Gable was the star that everyone else thought he should be. And here's the reality of the situation. Ever since coming out of that Sami Zayn feud, he has taken a back step. He's taken a back role on television. I understand he's with the Wyatt Six, but the fact of the matter is Chad Gable is not the same guy that he was. He was not having the same momentum. When you have someone who has gigantic momentum where the fans are fully invested in you and you do not execute on that momentum, if you are WWE and Triple H, then yes, you're going to cool off a character, and that's exactly what happened with Chad Gable. Now, Chad Gable, he was recently on Chris Van Vliet's podcast, and he was talked about how does it make him disappointed that he has not won a singles championship in WWE regardless of his tenure with the company, because he's been there for a lot of years. He said, I hope so in regards to winning a title one day. I feel like I am also disappointed in the fact that I didn't grab one during that whole run against Sami Zayn, because I also don't want to give the fans the impression that, like, well, he's great. He's also the guy that can't win the big one. Where I know I am and I know I can, but what this is doing is what I think for me building to that first one. I mean, almost as much as maybe as it's ever meant for anybody. I've come so close so many times. The Gunther stuff, what it did for my career, what Gunther did for my career can't be overstated. I have so much to thank him for the way that he elevated me. Then moving on to the stuff with Sami from a storytelling perspective, alongside the in-ring perspective. We got so much accomplished in such a short amount of time. I feel like both of us just left it the right amount on the table. For me, as a singles guy, to be like he did so much there, he got so much done, but he didn't win the championship. So we've got one piece of the puzzle left to fill, and I'm almost happy it didn't happen then, because of what we got done there. It didn't need it. I didn't need it. But now I do, and so now it's still on the table. So let's talk about that for a minute. He was appreciative that he lost to Gunther. Okay, I can see that. Right? He had a really, really good feud with Gunther earlier this year. They did a bunch of Raw matches. Really just banger after banger. What would you expect between Gunther and Chad Gable? I mean, two of the best workers not only in WWE, but two of the best workers in the entire industry. Now, fast forward, he goes into a feud with Sami Zayn, and he falls short. So what does that tell you? What does that tell me? Well, I think it tells us that they never really had full confidence of getting Chad Gable over to the point where he was going to win the championship. In fact, Chad Gable was in a contract year. He was in talks with WWE to the point where what was it, leading up to, I blanked, but it was Clash at the Castle. Look, in that match, that was such a great match. Everyone and their mother thought it was going to be Chad Gable that goes over and wins the championship there, but instead they decided, no, we're not going to do that. We're not going to put the title on one of the most over guys possible. No, instead we're going to have Sami Zayn beat him. They're going to tie up Chad Gable in the Otis storyline, and then Sami Zayn is going to go defeat Braun Breaker at Money in the Bank, retain said Intercontinental Championship, only to put him over just 3 weeks later. Yes, that's what WWE had planned as their grand plan. I don't necessarily agree with that, but that's what they did. Now, I think that tells you more on, well, they wanted to put a championship on Braun Breaker than it was Chad Gable. And Chad Gable, well, he suffered the wrath of it, right? He, like the day before or the day of, in the Gorilla Position podcast interview, he confirmed, hey, I just signed a new WWE deal. Now, isn't it ironic that he's in a contract year? He's someone that many people have told for years, dude, you need to leave WWE, go to AEW, go to MLW, go to New Japan, go wherever. We don't care, just go somewhere. But then he starts getting a big push. He gets into a big program with Gunther. He gets into a big program with Sami Zayn, and he signs a new deal. They don't put the title on him, and then they put him in a feud with Wyatt Six, and they put him with the Creed brothers. Now, I like him with the Creed brothers, but I think that also goes to tell you that they do not view him as not even a top single star. I'm not even talking about that, because clearly that's out of the cards for him right now. I'm talking about like an Intercontinental Champion, which is a title that is very prestigious, and a lot of people hold it in a very high regard, and as they should. But the fact of the matter is, you don't put the title on him then and there. You don't see him in that light. You clearly don't see him in that light. So what are you going to do? Well, I think the fact of the matter is he's going to be continuously booked as a tag team guy, as a trios guy, someone that is a plug and play. Hey, he can have a great match with so-and-so. And that's exactly what they're going to do with Chad Gable. That's exactly what they think of Chad Gable. And that is exactly what I don't like about WWE's booking of Chad Gable. It's like, no. This guy can be an Intercontinental Champion. This guy can be a U.S. Champion. I don't think he has necessarily the size to be a World Champion. I think he's a little bit too small for their liking. But that's the same thing that I go with like a Sami Zayn. I don't ever see him being a World Champion in WWE. I just don't. I don't see Jey Uso being in that same category. That is fine. Jey Uso is one of the hottest merch sellers in all of WWE, and Sami Zayn is one of their most popular stars. That's a great spot to be in, but just don't elevate him to the point where he's not going to be able to achieve the success in which you think he can. Let me know down in the comments there below, and I will see y'all in